everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cosmic Conversations. I am your host, Marla Martenson, and today I'm talking about something super exciting. Thomas Wade Jackson is with us. Hey, Thomas.
Hey Marla, how are you?
I'm awesome. You guys, Thomas is an award-winning filmmaker, and he is doing a film called The Compassion Project, and it's a feature-length documentary. And it strives to inspire and encourage those already on a spiritual path to expand our compassion to expand our circle of compassion and to embrace all of life regardless of species, because what's going on with all the factory farmed animals and everything is just devastating. So tell us a little bit about how you began your vegan journey, because I was reading that it was your daughter, the birth of your daughter, that kind of sparked that for you.
Well, actually, I had been vegan about 8 years when my daughter was born. What she sparked in me was an activism, I guess you would say. Before that, I had always lived my life as like finding peace within myself and choosing the right actions. So I was living a vegan lifestyle, and I was wishing everyone love, peace, and joy. But I wasn't really investigating what's going on in the real world. I was kind of out in the angel land or something, for a while, just kind of really finding my spiritual connectedness to the universe. But then when my daughter was born, suddenly, as my friend calls it, I had skin in the game. And with skin in the game, first of all, as a vegan who has always lived in a world of omnivores, that's another reason I haven't been too vocal, because, I do try, or I did try, but, I was the odd person out always. So, and people were always considerate, but I was never really very vocal. And then my daughter was born, and my partner and I split up about a year after she was born. And my partner, when I met her, she was becoming a vegan. She'd been vegetarian forever. And then by the time we were splitting up, she had let it all go. Like it was, to a point where, GMOs, any of that doesn't come up anymore. And so for my daughter's sake, I started researching a lot about nutrition and as a vegan lifestyle, because I knew I was going to raise her vegan, and I wanted to make sure she had the best nutrition. And along the way, I started, discovering other things. And then the other thing I needed to do is I needed to break out of this sea of omnivores and find some vegans. I had moved from New York City, probably about 7 or 8 years before that, and maybe about 5 years before that, and I was living in Tallahassee, Florida, or near Tallahassee, Florida, and still all my friends they were cool people. They were like, very socially aware, and hippies or whatever, growing their own crops, and just really good people, and having their own chickens or whatever. But there was that disconnection when it came to what was going on. So what happened is I reached out to the local vegetarian group, and the first event they had, a first meetup, was Cowspiracy. So I saw Cowspiracy, and that, like, I was already seeing what was going on health-wise, not just for personal health, but an epidemics in this country, and what's going on, and how scary that is. But seeing the environmental thing, like, I had heard a little bit about it, but really seeing it brought home in a visual way was powerful. And and a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation. I was getting ready to direct my first feature film at that time, and but it wasn't had anything to do with animal rights, So, but as I meditated and I prayed, this question popped in my mind that was planted when I first became vegan, because I became vegan when I was attending Unity in New York, and I was getting the teachings of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore watered down without the animal rights message, but it was getting through, which I didn't discover that until like last year. But they really, without even knowing it, my transition to vegan through spirituality, and then I would see a lot of my spiritual friends and leaders, and I would see what they would choose at brunch, and I would go, whoa, like, there's a disconnect here, but who am I? I'm young in my spiritual journey at the time, So again, I kind of keep my mouth shut and go about my business. But the education when my daughter was born, seeing Cowspiracy, realizing what was going on, and meditating, saying, what can I do? What is it that I can do? I didn't say, can I do a documentary? Can I do whatever? I mean, I was narrative before this. I'd done documentaries on short levels, but I never really done a feature documentary. But it came like it said, this is what you do. I mean, because you know what? And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was a year and a half ago. But along this path, every vegan I meet has that same feeling. How can you say you're connected to everything and you're a part of everything, and there's this thing called karma, and there's this thing called the golden rule, like whatever you want done to you, do. Whatever you don't want done to you, don't. It's very, very clear. And
Well,
so
yeah.
that's where it all stemmed from.
Well, I was going to say, and I have so many friends who will say, "Oh, I'm an animal lover. I love animals." Well, only certain animals. How can you say you love animals and then you're eating them and funding? So if you're eating meat, you're funding it. You're asking someone else to do it with your dollars, with your choices, and it's all the
Yeah.
same thing. So it'll be radical for people, but yeah, well, I love dogs and cats and squirrels and bunnies, but not cows, and so that's what makes me go crazy. Right.
Yeah. And on a spiritual and karmic level, and I'm talking global collective karma, on a spiritual and karma level, what's going on is it's a vote. And you're putting energy, when even if you're like this and you're not looking at what you're doing, you're only looking at the package, and it's pre-packaged and looking nice and it tastes good or whatever, and you're not making that connection karmically or spiritually, energetically.
Yeah.
You're eating that food that has fear and guilt and misery and just torture in it. It's just really, really not.
Right.
It's not healthy. It's not healthy on a physical level, and it's definitely not healthy on a spiritual level. And I know personally, my spiritual life, my connection to the universe and to everything that's around me shifted dramatically when I became vegan. And the more I tune it in even finer, and the more I actually live more on purpose and try to go after what it is I feel spirit saying in the meditation. I actually do it instead of saying, oh, who am I? I can't do that. Well, one step at a time, you can do it. You're climbing that mountain. If you're in a meditation and spirit keeps talking to you, just do it. Even if you say there's no way, Jose, and you know what? Maybe that one thing you're right, but that lesson you climbed up halfway is going to teach you what you need, and it's going to point you in a new direction. And all of that, I have chased so many different directions in my life, in the things I've learned and my interests and the careers I've had. And it's no wonder, like, this film is like everything I've done in my life has trained me to do this. I've never produced a film, and as far as I've done I've never produced it money wise. I never went out I've always produced it as far as getting actors and getting whatever, but I've never done the nuts and bolts. But I worked as a assistant in an office, and did this years ago. Like, why am I doing this? All these things I learned, all these little things at the time, I'm going, why is this going on? Even this week, there were things that felt like they're obstacles in my way. They led to a better end product because the next day something fresh came out that I thought it had to be today it goes out. This crowdfunding thing, you're like, you got to stay on top of it. Well, I'm trying to stay on top of it, but,
Well, tell
little
us
bitty
about the
things.
film. What's the film entail? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the film, I call it a project because I see it as way more than a film. I mean, right now, I see like two documentaries that may be able to maybe one or enter pieces of each one in one. And a lot of shorter things. Because, here's the thing. There's a lot of people that may not see this documentary, but they may sit down and watch a 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute thing, And so I want to take all of the things I'm doing and I want to create a lot of content. And I want to take, it's specific, for each path, each spiritual path, whether it be Buddhism or Judaism or Christianity, I want to gear short documentaries for each of those paths that people can use, in their talks, and when they're doing a talk somewhere that's, because it's short enough to use, and at the same time creating a longer documentary along with that. Now, that's the first half of the process. The second half is to actually reach out to spiritual and religious people and leaders who are not vegan, but who are very compassionate, and who are doing the right thing, and who the way I believe it is that most people are very unaware.
Yeah.
I grew up in South Georgia. I have my mom and stepdad are in their 70s, and I asked them this question one day. I was like, "Did you know that in order for a cow to have milk, she had to have a baby?" And then it stopped, and they had to have another baby, and they're like, "No." And my stepdad said, "I know some farmers. I want to ask them." Like unaware.
Right.
I
We
want
didn't
to
think
I want
about
to
that.
gently break the bubble.
I didn't even
You know
think
what?
I didn't think about that either.
I've been vegan for
And
8 years, and I didn't think about it
yeah, and
honestly.
even the eggs with the chickens, because that's the chickens period, right? They're really only having a few eggs per year, or not very many, but when
That's
they get taken away, and so there's things going on that have to be done to get these products that are not natural to those animals and cause them great distress and misery. So
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes,
Well, that is great that you're going to be doing these sound bites, because people don't have time or the attention span anymore, right, for long things. So you can be
right.
taking all of these sound bites. I feel like you did, just exasperated the energy. I'm an energy healer and everything. I feel energy, and the energy of all these animals suffering, millions and millions of animals suffering every single day. And you see the chaos on the planet, people going absolutely berserk with violence. And I am so sure in my heart that it's directly related to what's going on, to how we treat the animals, to how people are just having a lot of violence. And I just don't know even what to do either, because even I have friends or family that I've shown videos, this is what's happening, look how horrible, and they're like, well, too bad, but I want my bacon, or that's a shame,
Mm-hmm.
but well, maybe somebody should be called and change the laws of how the animals are treated. But they want, and then I can't leave my husband of 15 years. We have a good marriage. I love him, but there's no way he's going to be vegan. Even when he saw everything, he knows everything that's going on. He somehow can not look at it and say, well, I wish it was different, but I'm going to have my turkey sandwich. And I can't go run and live in the woods with a bunch of vegans. So do you have any suggestion for people who are like in the midst of all these carnivores? But I still love them, it's hard.
It is hard. It's hard. I mean, for me, it was not as hard till I had a child. Now, every time we go to an event, to a
Mm-hmm.
party, to whatever, I'm always like making sure I bring the vegan marshmallows, or
Yeah.
have some kind of alternative. I think that's one of the things is always be prepared.
Yes.
Be prepared. Be prepared for what you're going to eat and what you're going to share, but also be prepared for somebody. You never know who it's going to be who might say, I heard this movie about this movie Conspiracy, or and really kind of tune into what everybody's concern is. Everybody has a different entry path into veganism. It seems, a lot of people, their health, they get really sick. Their doctor says, okay, you can have all of this surgery, or you can change your lifestyle, and they say, well, maybe I'll change my lifestyle. Some people, like even my dad will say, "Let me just keep taking that statin pill, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever."
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so I would say that I really think the example we live, of knowing the person you're dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
and how much you can say,
Yeah.
and like that cow survey, that I did it in a way I didn't want to put anybody judgmental. I'm like, I didn't know this. I like until I've been vegan 8 years or so, and then I made the connection. And the only person, now I asked this to several people, and I'm creating a little survey I want to ask all the non-vegans, which is twofold. One is to see what they know, but mainly to go ahead and give them a clue. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
this does happen. Oh, no, I didn't know that. So to prepare them a little bit for maybe what they're going to watch in the little documentary we're going to show them next. Because I really believe one of the reasons I'm going toward the spiritual and religious people is, especially when I read that there was the 80 or 85% of the world's population considers themselves either religious or spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to looking at that, and I'm like, you know, the way for most people, this is the way it's always been done. This is the way my mom did it. This is the way her mom did it. This is the way it's always been done. And Will Tuttle is great if you want to learn how it all came together. The World Peace Diet will really enlighten you as to the conditioning that we're really up against in some way. But I think that most people have that compassion within them, and it's just the circle that they extend it to is pretty small. And what I'd like to do is increase that circle. And then these are people I don't want to like. This is not going to be an Earthlings. I don't want to scare people away. I want to gently burst their bubble in a nice way, in a way that wakes them up to these beings who are here on this planet with us, not for us. And that if you get to meet them, I mean, one of the things, like, here's this: all the people who come in that are non-vegans are going to get a compassionate living kit, and we're going to offer them a challenge of 30 days, a compassionate living challenge. If they follow it, we'll video them and all that. Now, I only recently this year went to my first farm sanctuary, and I've met a lot of farm animals, but never freed ones like that, and it changed. Even for me, already knowing it, seeing videos, whatever, the difference is like there's a shift. So right away, I was like, that's one of the things in the Compassionate Living Challenge. You have to visit a farm sanctuary. You have to spend an afternoon or a day there. You have to meet all the different animals and have the person tell you about who they are and what happens when one dies. Yeah. We met a beautiful guy down there who has a farm sanctuary that nobody knows about, but he's just been taking care of cows for 30 years. And he's got some that are 25, and I met him. I took my daughter down there recently. I'm going to do many documentaries about him because he really needs support because nobody knows about him. He's never reached out, and he's getting old, and he's afraid what's going to happen to his cows when he dies. But one just died around 25. When I came back, you could see all the cows the morning. Their child was there. He had a child there, his friend that had known for 20 years. The grievingness that had been going on, the way he tells about how each one, you can't just go out there and move the cow. You have to let each cow come by and spend time with that body for it to make a peace, and it walks away. They are spiritual beings. They believe in family. They believe in connection. We don't see that when you're in a factory farm or when you're even on these other farms and you're treated like an option. What I've always felt energetically with these were beings in shock. They didn't even know that it was like they're beings, and they didn't know they were beings in some way because nobody ever looked them in the eyes except their fellow, and most of their other fellows are always in shock.
Right. And, there's one, I always hear the most outrageous, silly excuses, so one of them is people would say, yeah, but so if everyone went vegan, we'd just have cows running in the streets. We just have cows overtaking everything. And I'm like, are you kidding me? They're bred specifically for that. They wouldn't be running in the streets and overbreeding.
Yeah.
So that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these are like I'm sure there must be a book out there about this transition period, but these are things that we're gonna have to like work out because I believe it's gonna happen. Because it really, if you look, wait till I just made a video. This I've been working on it for the last few days, and the first pitch was it's 1-in-1. It's a vegan challenge, and I want every vegan make sure every vegan sees this video. Because what I was asking is I want you to go to our GoFundMe page and just put $1 in and one vote. Or one share. If every vegan did that, what would happen is the film, it's not even about the money, it's about the film would have so many people that are connected to it that we could get a theatrical release like Cowspiracy did for the one day. Or we could get on Netflix. It's really these days, and this is what this pitch is about. It's about these days, if you want to see these films get a wide reach, we got to start, even before they're finished, building the foundation of an audience. Because you know what? Every vegan I talk to, except for some abolitionists I got a couple emails from, are so excited about this. Some of the abolitionists are like, well, there's people on there who might support, and it's like, we're all at different levels. It's just like there's some atheists, why aren't you doing this? And I was like willing to include them, and me and Victoria talks about it, and it was like, you know what, that really is a separate project. We don't want to turn other people away that are spiritual. Like, we're doing the Compassion Project, and they're really about justice. So the next project is the Justice Project. And it's about the humanists and the atheists who are living this too, and who have a sense of ethics, who also are living by a certain inner
Right.
guidance,
Right.
like the thing is Will Tuttle's work and a lot of people and my own experience is that when you're eating that diet, when you're consuming animal products, a part of your psyche, a part of your energy, a part of your spirit is kind of being put to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And that is sleeping. And you know what? That's part of your intuition. That's part of your feminine connection to the everything, the universe. It's going to sleep. Like if we live from our intuition, religions were never meant to be like Jesus was not a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was somebody who tapped in and said, "You can do these things and more." And it's
Right.
the
Right.
kingdom is now. And he was saying he was not telling us, "Okay, worship me and do it only this way. Like find your path." He was not saying. And the Buddhists, they're wrong. And the Zoroastrians at the time, he would have known about Zoroastrians. He never said, "And don't be a Zoroastrian or you're going to hell."
Mm-hmm.
That was not the message of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's the message of control that has taken over the teachings. That somehow miraculously the truth message still gets through, just like the message of the Fillmores got through in the Unity, even though nobody ever taught what Will Tuttle has said, what I've seen now that Charles wrote about and spoke about prolifically
Mm-hmm.
about the connection of the spirit and eating animal products and how
Right.
we really should respect all life.
All life and people. What I hear a lot is, yes, but I can't give up cheese, because. And I was watching a talk by someone who was said that the in the cheese is like something similar to morphine. In the milk, in the dairy, is something similar to morphine to keep that baby cow close to the mother to keep coming back. So
Yes.
the people, we are eating cheese and then we're taking in that morphine, whatever that chemical that is for the cows, and then it actually acts like some kind of a crack to make us want it and want it. And I used to love cheese, and
Yeah.
but it wasn't when I
Yeah.
just quit. I didn't crave it anymore, and I accidentally today for the first. My husband brought home this salad. He works at a restaurant, and it had a chopped salad, and he always brings it home for me with no cheese, and it had a little bit of cheese, and I got a little tiny bit of like goat cheese in my mouth, and the flavor was so horrible. And I used to love that cheese. It's so your palate will change. It'll really change. You're not going to crave it anymore if you just get it out of your system for a little while.
It's like other drugs. Within 28 days, your taste buds change as well.
Yes.
And now they actually have the cheeses that are, they may cost a little more money, but that are actually
Hmm.
cultured and all of these things.
They're really good.
Now, yeah. Now the thing about cheese or dairy, is um, no matter where, if it's GMO free or organic or whatever, it's got the the thing you were talking about, the making you addicted to it, it has that, and so does our mother's milk, but this
Hmm.
has it way much more, and plus it's got 56 different hormones in it,
Uh-huh.
and a couple of those match up really good to ours, really close to ours, and they're so powerful that if you have like cancer starting, they feed the cancer.
Hmm.
Dairy really, if you know somebody with cancer, like please get them off the dairy, get them alkalizing themselves, and
Right.
looking out for, because now like I've have family members who went through chemotherapy, and they tell them don't eat it. They make them so sensitive they can't eat raw vegetables, and they let them eat like crow stuff. Like they come out like my cousin had heart surgery, and they give him like choice of bacon the next morning or whatever right after the
Yes.
surgery.
Yeah. The
It's like
hospitals, it's bad.
what?
My mother was in the hospital a couple of years ago, and for just 5 days. But the things they were the slop they give, it's just like no nutrition in it. And I was like, this is where you're supposed to be healed. It's not. They're not. Yeah. But Dr. Leonard Coldwell, who I've interviewed a few times, holistic cancer doctor, he says, and he has a book, The Only Answer to Cancer, and in it says if you are diagnosed with cancer, immediately go on a raw vegan diet and cut out the sugar. And he said, and I personally know people who have cleared out the cancer out of their body before chemo. It's very important to do this before chemo,
Yeah.
and see and give yourself a month or so. You're not going to die within a month. If you get a diagnosis, go on a raw vegan diet, juice, get as much nutrition in your body as you can, and see if it clears up before you do something so drastic. Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
important.
and what's sad is they've been doing this curing cancer with the diet and lifestyle since the '70s, but they were having to have the clinics in like Mexico, like
Mm-hmm.
because everything. There's no money really to be made in
No.
this, because if you're healthy, you're not going to need something to keep you.
Right.
You're not going to need to see the doctor every 6 months and stay on this prescription the rest of your life. I mean, that's their jackpot. Their jackpot is getting somebody addicted to their drugs for the rest of their life, having to come in and pay them to a sham. And even if they're not paying because it's healthcare, it's, you know, the other thing too is, like, if you look at other countries who have the universal healthcare, it's different. There's no, when you take the money out of healthcare, the government needs the people to be healthy.
Yes.
There's no money. It costs money for them to not be healthy. So they take out the junk food. They take out the GMOs. They encourage you not, you know, they put taxes on things that are really bad for you, you know, like junk food and then, you know, and if they find out, if there's proof that, like, bacon's going to kill you, then they would really encourage you not to do bacon. Right now, you know, there's so much money in the animal agricultures and in the pharmaceuticals and in statin drugs that bacon is a very profitable commodity,
Oh,
period.
bacon, they're putting bacon in chocolate, putting bacon on donuts, putting bacon on, I mean, bacon, bacon, bacon. And these poor pigs, they are smarter even than a dog, or as smart, and they are so wonderful. It's just, it's to hear that word, it just, But yes, so I'm so happy that you're doing this project, and you guys, put in the comments, what's your experience? How do you feel? Do you feel like going vegan? Do you feel like doing a challenge? What do you think about this? What are your challenges with your peeps? So let us know. And Thomas, thank you so much for stopping by, and good luck.
And a blessing to everybody today, and thank you so much
we bless you guys, and we bless the animals. Thank you.